Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and I am joined by the wonderful Michael J. Russ. I want to welcome you, Michael, and I can tell you got a big smile on your face today because I got a smile on mine.
Yes, we do. Thank you. So happy to be here. Absolutely.
And I just want to thank you because you are a muse to me. And I think about that all the time. A lot of times you inspire me in unexpected ways that you don't even realize. And I would encourage everybody to find somebody in your life that you can share your, just all the little treasures that happen in a day that might seem unimportant, but to help you celebrate the things that come your way that are sort of unexpected. And you know what got me thinking about this, Michael, is I tuned into a story about J.R.R. Tolkien, and it blew my mind. And it's after I read it, it made me think about you. But I'm just going to say that when he began writing The Lord of the Rings in the 1920s, he was a professor at the University of Oxford. And during that time period in history, fantasy was not considered a serious genre. So all of his contemporaries did not take him seriously. They mocked him. They made fun of him. They said he was wasting his time. Why would you lavish your time on a genre that is just a trifle? And so one of the biographers had said that he was regularly mocked by people saying, like, how is your Hobbit? How is your Hobbit? And I could just imagine what it was like in, maybe an English accent. How is your Hobbit? But he didn't, but he didn't take it seriously. He said, no matter what happened, he said for him, there was a writer that inspired him, and that was C.S. Lewis, who had written The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, as well as other things. And that, he said, there was a quote that just really resonated with me. He said, the unpayable debt that I owe to Lewis was not influence but sheer encouragement. He was, for long, my audience. Only for him did I ever get the idea that this stuff could be more than a private hobby. And I thought about that. I thought, oh, my goodness, how many people have been in that same situation? You're in something, like he was in Oxford, which was considered a very prestigious university. And just think, if he had not had C.S. Lewis there, that fantasy, those books, those trilogies, those movies, everything else would not have existed. It opened up a whole new level. And I remember being in high school and reading The Hobbit and looking at the detailed maps and all the other different things that he created. I was always just mesmerized by it. But one of the things that I learned was that they had almost like a little club. There were three of him. It was Tolkien, Lewis, and another writer named Charles Williams, which I'm not so far. But they had sort of a literary club. It was just the three of them, and they would exchange ideas. And I think about you like that, Michael. You're part of my club, and I can bounce ideas off of you. And no matter how silly they are, you say, you know what, let's expand on that. So I just thought that would be kind of a fun thing, and I'm in the Michael J. Russ. We're not the Inklings, but we're going to have to come up. I guess we're the Connect to Lovelings.
I am inspired by everything you've just said. Number one, we're both each other's muse, and you're right about one fabulous thing, and that is that everyone in their life needs to have someone that they can talk to without judgment. They can communicate and know there's not going to be. It's a non-judgmental space. It's a space where you can celebrate the littlest to the biggest, and in any way that you choose, that you can shoot ideas back and forth. There's somebody else I do this with, by the way, in a basic 3D sense, and that's my sister. We shoot ideas back and forth. And we support each other in whatever it is that she tells me what she's doing, what she's creating. I do the same thing to her, and it's great. Now, metaphysically, we don't share much. However, That's the beauty of having different people that you can share things with. I have you and I can literally get on the phone and talk about absolutely anything because we're excited by positivity. We're excited by light, by energy, by and we both shun darkness. We don't pay any attention to it because we understand that what we put out is what we get back, and we want to always be putting out positive. So when we're doing our little creative endeavors or we've come up with something, we can call each other and we can share it in, again, that non-judgmental space, that celebration space. And that's what makes our relationship so absolutely beautiful and unique, and is what everyone should have in their life. At least one person that they can call and say anything to, bounce ideas off of. Not, one of the things you and I don't do is we don't call to complain. We don't call to vent about something going on in our lives. We talk about positive solutions to things. We approach things from a positive standpoint. And that's really important, too, because the people you have in your life really, they don't want to hear about your complaints. They don't want to hear about your problems. They're just, your problems are your problems, and your challenges to be solved by you, because that's why they exist, so that you can move, you can elevate your frequency, you can move to a different space in your life, you can grow, you can transform. That's why these things appear. If nothing else, to validate that you're on the right track, or that the track you're on is not the right track, and that you maybe need to make some changes and shift to something different. Being open to those things is really positive. But yes, absolutely, I love this. J.R. Tolkien and Lewis little. And back in those days, by the way, you really needed to have that. It was the same thing with Manet, Monet, and Van Gogh. These artists who were impressionists, they would get together for coffee in the morning. They'd get together for drinks in the evening. They talked art. They talked about what they were doing. They shared ideas. I'm sure they shared techniques. And and that's what drove all of them in the continued direction of higher intuition, higher learning, and greater creativity. They had someone to share that energy with. And that's it happens all over the place. It happens. Find someone that is, again, as Bashar says, and Carol as well, the teachers, you yourself must elevate your frequency to the point where people like this will come into your life. It's important to do that. You can't be operating on a lower level of not liking yourself, not trusting who you are, and not being who you are, and expect that someone's going to come into your life who will inspire you, because you're not inspiring yourself to move forward. You're not using your own intuition all the time. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I was really happy that you brought up the Impressionist painters, because they were some of the first painters that really painted with light. All of their techniques were how the light came in. And I think what a great metaphor, Michael, for this time, because we keep talking about this illumination that's going to be happening on the planet and people awakening, or whatever words you choose. But the way that they saw the light, and Claude Monet would paint the same scene at different times of the day, but the light would be different and the colors would be different. And it was just the water lilies. I remember in high school we would go to the Carnegie Museum and we would look at the Impressionists. And if you walked right up to the painting, it looked like a mishmash of just colors that were kind of mixed in. But as soon as you walked away from it, that's when you could see the whole thing more clearly. Yeah. And what a great metaphor for life. We're right up on things so often that we cannot see the forest through the trees. We can't see what may be right in front of us. And it takes somebody like you who says, you know what, just take a couple steps back. Maybe look at it from this angle. Maybe look at it from that angle. you'll see something different. And when
Yeah.
you do, the proverbial light bulb comes on and you go, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
But they really sparked, and you're right. They would get together. Mary Cassatt, I remember, being one of the first female Impressionist artists. I mean, everybody was, up until that time, really classically trained. And it was about realism. And they were the pioneers in seeing the world a little bit differently. And this morning I was listening to, it was one of Pam Gregory's most recent guests, and I apologize, I don't recall this gentleman's name, but he said something. They talked about a lot of different things, and it had to do with the missing octave. And I thought, wow, now that's a curious title. I want to learn about this. I am very interested in frequencies. I'm very interested in a lot of different things. And for this missing octave, and one of the things that he said as he started getting into some of the things that led him on his journey was that, and I'd never heard this before, but it's going to be a curious point of exploration for me, is that we actually have two different strands of DNA going on at the same time that coexist, but we really only know about the one. And I thought, now that's interesting. But it's so fascinating to me, because sometimes it can be just a few little words or an image, or you're driving and you catch a billboard or whatever it is, and it opens a new gateway. It opens a new doorway for exploration that you've never ever thought of, like that, the Tolkien genre of fantasy. It doesn't exist. All of a sudden, guess what? I mean, how much has grown from that time? Even C.S. Lewis's books. Oh my gosh! I mean, they were a point of escape, and I created my own world. And so when the movies came out, I was like, well, that character didn't quite look like that, but in my imagination. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It's just it just fascinates me how all these things sort of come together in an eloquent sort of unfolding in unexpected ways.
So true. I agree 110%. And I love, it's interesting you mentioned Monet, who did 100 and something, 130, 138 different paintings of haystacks. He's known for haystacks. Mm. And you see a couple of two things. And he took them, he painted the haystacks, again, just like he did with was it water lilies you just said?
Water lilies. Mm-hmm.
Right. And he painted at different times of the day, haystacks. And I've seen in person several of his, I think it was during one of the Met's Impressionist exhibits. Really wonderful. You sit around and go, wait a minute. There's haystacks, there's haystacks, there's haystacks. There's three on the wall, and you're looking at them, and they're all different because of the time of the day. And but it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
It is.
Yeah.
But could you imagine if somebody came up to him and said, "Come on, Claude, you already did a haystack. Why are you doing another haystack?"
Sure, he does a dozen haystacks. Hey, why are you doing another haystack? It's really true, though. The beautiful thing about all of this, and the thread that runs, in my view, through everything, is that they didn't allow their peers who were mocking them to impact their own sovereignty and what they believed was right for them at the time. And they didn't let other peers interfere, because a lot of times the people who are ridiculed, generally by evidently the quote unquote educated in their field, are those who are the innovators. The innovators. You can always tell an innovator because they're the ones who are mocked, who are being mocked at the time, and pay attention to them because they're the ones who are breaking the mold. Because what happens is that if you do something long enough without any new inspiration, you're going to get into a slump. You're going to the more you're in it, the more you're doing it, the less you'll render yourself to accepting something new, seeing a different side of the same issue, of the same topic or the same thing you're studying, whatever it may be. This was what went on over and over again in the scientific circles in the 17th, 14th, 15th, 1300s, 14th, 16th, 1800s, 1900s, early 1900s. It's exactly the kind of thing that is even going on today. People who've been studying or teaching the same thing over and over and over again are less open to new ways of thinking or new ideas or new concepts or another way of looking at whatever it is that they've been teaching. They've said over and over, it's really interesting because we have had conversations over and over about several times about Göbekli Tepe, a site that's 12,000, 13,000 years old in Turkey that I was unable to visit because of the earthquake from last year ago. But the fact that there are discoveries that are being made every day that should be rewriting history. However, the longer the status quo exists, the more difficult, the more challenging it will become to shift that narrative, because that narrative has been the long accepted narrative, right? And when it comes to people, think about this for a second. When it comes to people and relationships, people have perceptions of you because they've known you for a period of time, and they've known you in this little box in their mind. And the moment you step out of that box, they get uncomfortable. And they get uncomfortable because their perception of you has been challenged. So think about this for a second. The moment that you become aware or alert to the fact that you create your own reality, and then you share that with somebody who is not creating their own reality, who's caught up in the 3D world of drama and greed and capitalism and money and all these things that are making them feel not so good on a daily basis, that's making them complain about life. The moment that you move out of that realm, the moment you shift your frequency to a higher level of enlightenment, people around you who aren't resonating that same frequency anymore, they do get uncomfortable. And they will say something, and they will lash out, generally, because they don't like change. They don't like it. And this happens a lot. It happens in relationships, because in relationships, especially intimate relationships, the other partner who's had a perception of you for regardless of how many years, it feels threatened because you're changing, and they haven't changed. They're seeing you change. You stepped out of the perceptive box that they've created for you, and they'll say things that allude to flat out that, hey, why are you doing that? You know, what makes you want to go that way? And they'll start talking it down because they like you as you are. Right. They don't want you to change. You know it's time to change. You know it's time to elevate your frequency because you want to be somewhere else in life. And it's led to a lot of relationship challenges, we'll put it that way.
For sure.
A lot of people.
I would prefer to keep my frequency high, and I think, as you mentioned, Michael, as you raise your own vibrational frequency, and some people are not comfortable being around positivity. As you mentioned, they like to speak about things that are the opposite of positive. They like to engage in gossip, which I feel is a lot of lower energy. I prefer to stay away from that. I just don't have time for it. It's not important to me. I just
not relevant.
Yeah, no, it isn't. I have so many other things that I would rather be doing. But I think as you kind of anchor into that, there's people who just don't want to hang out with you anymore, and that's okay. And I think you had sent me a wonderful video with Bashar about circumstances. And in the video, he mentions that it's okay to be a little crazy. Let yourself go into that space of, he calls it crazy, you said, and then your friends will look at you and go, oh my goodness, look at her. She's a little creative. She's creative. I'm like, yeah, that would be me.
Yeah,
I'm a little out there. I'm creative. The people that I admire were creative. I think about I love children's books, and there's a lot of children's authors that I absolutely adore, and one of them is Dr. Seuss, Theodore Geisel. And a lot of people don't know about his early beginning. He was a World War II cartoon artist. And so a lot of the things, because he was German and he was sort of put down, he did a lot of propaganda cartoons about during a lot of different things that were really sensitive topics during the war. And he was in the U.S. Army, and he worked as a propaganda artist. But after that, he got into these children's stories. So can you imagine transitioning from like World War II propaganda into The Cat in the Hat? And I think, I look at his silly rhymes. He had this delightful sense of humor, and he joked about a lot of different things. But if we would never have had Horton Hears a Who, The Lorax, so many books that I absolutely love, The Places You'll Go, all of Green Eggs and Ham. I can recite them off by heart, and I just love them. And you mentioned the box, Yeah, and he said box and socks and put me in a box. And, do you like Green Eggs and Ham? No, I don't like them, Sam, I am. But they were silly little rhymes, but they all told a message. And they all really, they became he became an American icon. And I have his book, The Secret Art of Dr. Seuss. One of the things that a lot of people don't know, in his early writings, he wrote a book called The Seven Lady Godivas, which I have an original first edition of. And it's just, it was not for children. Let me just say that. But he was true to who he was, and he loved to paint and did whimsical things. And again, it wasn't, you have to be a serious author, and you have to do this, you have to do that. He loved rhythm and rhyme and what spoke to his soul, and I just think it's a wonderful way to be.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. He's just one of thousands of people, in terms of an example, who again didn't listen to the status quo, who went against it, who went with their own creativity, who chose that over everything else. And it takes a little while sometimes. The Impressionists didn't end up rich people. At the timing, they pursued their passion, and they looked for benefactors so that they could work with their passion, so they could practice, they could engage with their passion. And I think Bashar would probably say, hey, when you have your needs will be taken care of, whatever those needs are. Having what you need when you need it is I believe that the way that they would have operated, and we have to learn to do that now without all the fear and the anxiety of doing that. We participating in what I have many passions, so I pick one and move with it, run with it as long as you want to, and then go do something else. And at any given time, there's nothing that stays at the top of the list on a daily basis or a weekly basis. I know a lot of people who only do the same thing every day, that they not really passionate about. They know it. It's a means to an end, which is a statement that I kind of loathe. A means to an end. What does that mean?
Right.
That's what a lot of people participate in. I've given a lot of thought, I got to tell you, that in the last, I was out of town for a little bit, and I was thinking about people who engage in doing things because it's a societal norm. And one of Bashar's videos just recently, I know I just sent it to you this morning. I didn't get to finish it yet, but I was listening to it, and it was pretty much what it was what it was about. People who, we in our society, we're born happy, joyous, loving, creative, mischievous a little bit here and there. We're born being exactly the way we should be, right? Ourselves, until we engage with other people, our parents, grandparents, other people who have their own ideas about who you should be and what you should be and how you should conduct yourself, right? There are societal norms for conduct, and I believe that you have a wide berth when it comes to creativity, inspiration, having fun, being excited, being joyous, and a narrow one when it comes to being mischievous, things of that nature. There are norms, right? You must fit into them. And some parents and grandparents want you to, and peers want you to fit into a very narrow box. Others, it's a very large box. And the jury's out on which one of those creates a more loving or joyous human being. However, I was reading something the other day that was talking about some situation that's going on somewhere in the country, and I happened to respond with, what we really need are schools that teach you how to be a loving, connected human being instead of preparing you for tests, more tests, and to make a decision when you're 18 about the rest of your life that you're not really equipped to make.
Right.
There are so many. We're raising generations of young people who are many are aware. I'm not going to say that they're unaware. Many are aware, and what they're doing is they're finding this tug of war between being aware and what that means and exploring that angle, that avenue, and then fitting into society's norms, the school system's norms of, go from this grade to that grade, you got to make this score, you got to do this thing, you got to remember that thing, you got to, it happened in 1892, not in 1981, or 1881. It's there's a lot of irrelevance that's still going on. I said, the educational system just needs to start creating awesome human beings. Why don't make that the focus, and not so much the being a good consumer, going and getting a job, making a lot of money so that you can buy a lot of stuff, which is kind of what our society is built on, is consumerism. So it is. There are a lot of young people that if young people are listening to this show, be you. That's the only thing whatever that is, to keep discovering who you are, and be that person. Don't be somebody else. There's a lot of celebrity and hero worship going on out there right now, which people are patterning themselves after other people instead of themselves. They don't know who they are, so they pick someone. Pick that sports star, pick that movie star, pick that whatever, that person who's that billionaire, and act like them, be like them. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, unless what it's doing is it's stifling your own growth and transformation and your evolution. If it's doing that, and every time I go on YouTube, I get all these. There's endless people who are on professing to know how to show you how to make $1 zillion like they did. And you and I have had this conversation before.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
I have $1 zillion. I'm not going to sit around wasting my time making videos. Okay, I'll be out doing some good in the world, being of service to people, but that's the last thing I'm going to be doing. So it doesn't make any sense. But this is what we're bombarded by. You cannot do anything on YouTube without being bombarded by either a weight loss, a fitness, a health thing of some kind, the latest health deal, or something about making money, or there's a lot of good stuff about like Bashar and the teachers and others about how you can expand your own awareness, which I find really wonderful, because it's showing you how to live life, how to have fun in life, how to be excited, how to be passionate about life and what's going on in it. And that's the stuff that you and I watch, and we share things all the time. You know,
Absolutely.
Got to have people to share these things with. You find I mean, every day I'm blown away by the literal keys that are being given to me, right, to unlock doors and go in and have fun, go to another place, and it's and I'm just it blows my mind. It just blows it right up because you're sitting there going, yeah, I know, I've thought about that for years. Something I said for decades, Bashar said the other day. When I wrote in my own book, he put it out. I'm going, yeah, I've been saying that. Said it in a different way. However, that's the beauty of having different messengers, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, without a doubt, Michael. And you had sent me, and it's funny because when you send me something, and this is what I love about our relationship, and that you don't expect me to drop everything I'm doing and watch it right away. Whenever I have time, you know that if you send it to me, I'm like, yeah, it's worth my time to evaluate it, listen to it, whatever, and I come away with my takeaway, and you share it when we kind of feed each off of each other, like, wow, that was really great. And it always is so fascinating because one that you sent me most recently was about how circumstances don't matter. And that my biggest takeaway from that particular video was it may not happen the way you think it will happen. And sure enough, you sent me that video, and I'm thinking, okay, it was North American eclipse, biggest day, everybody's doing whatever, going wherever they're going to watch the eclipse, and here in Pittsburgh I could see like 97.9%. That was good. I didn't have to go anywhere.
Pretty good number.
So I had my glasses, and I'm thinking I get all my work done. I'm going to go, and I'm going to watch it at the back of my doghouse because there's a nice big yard there. It's open space. And as I mentioned to you the other day, I had some trees come down, and I had breaks in my fences, and I had blockaded them. However, when I got to my house to watch the eclipse and had plenty of time, the 2 German shepherds that I put out in the backyard weren't there. They found a way to get out.
Yeah, so they had other ideas.
What I thought was going to happen about sitting down and meditating and relaxing was not happening. Because I could not leave these 2 German shepherds running at large in the neighborhood. I called my brother, and I'm thinking, okay, because I've got 260 acres behind this house that's city park, and then I've got all of this expanse of cemetery. Called my brother, and I'm like, I'm going to go. I drove through the park, didn't see them, went up cruising around the cemetery, and my brother called me literally, like, into my travels. I got the dogs. I found them, and they were right on the street. I probably drove right past them. I didn't even see them. They weren't in my thing. So I got the dogs, came back, put them in the house, and I still had time to enjoy the eclipse. Did it happen the way that I thought that it was supposed to happen? No, it didn't. But maybe I wasn't supposed to be in that space. I still could appreciate the time and the moment. And you know what was so magical? I watched the sun as it disappeared the rest of the day into the sunset, and I saw the most amazing cloud formation. To me, it looked like a dove, and I'm thinking, peace. Just peace. That's really what it's all about. Is it being able to watch and see it? You know, because there are lots of people who could only watch it on television. I could have watched it on television. But you know what? It was exactly that reminder. And here you send me, the circumstances don't matter. It doesn't matter how, where, when I watched it. I still got to bask in the energies of all of the 7 planets that were aligned that day. Everything that was, and it happened the way it was supposed to happen. And I just honor that. And I laugh about it. And it was over. You know, the dogs were gone. I wasn't even mad at them. Like, whatever. It's just another thing that, I don't know, the universe aligned. And I think that was one of the takeaways that I got from that video you sent me, because you said, you know, sometimes we go a little bit crazy, and it's okay to be in that state. And it's okay to allow things to come to us in unexpected ways. And to really let go of the control of how we think things should happen. And I really appreciate that. So thank you, because that video came in at just the right time and for that reminder.
I'm glad it did. As we always get what we need when we need it, right? We just have to be open to that being the way that we live our lives. I was in the car, by the way, with the Apex before the full eclipse, which I didn't see. I went at about 75%, 76%. But I only saw a little bit of the moon covering the sun through a minuscule hole in the cloud cover that was so absolutely pervasive. There was no way to see the sun all day where I was. And I said, you know what? It's not like I haven't seen a solar eclipse before. I'll just stay positive and keep moving, drive back and, see my mom and, go watch my girlfriend gamble and get my mom, go for a walk around the casino or whatever, get her something to eat, prep, take her out to gamble, whatever. It didn't really, it could have been, to me it was an awesome day. It just didn't involve seeing the eclipse. But there are times I go there and I see the absolute most beautiful sunsets, better sunsets than I see even here on the coast in Panama City Beach. So not this time because of the cloud cover. It's a really kind of a funky couple of days weather-wise. However, it didn't bother me, and I think it's important. It's interesting because I didn't become disappointed or get frustrated that I couldn't see it. I was making the most of whatever it was. I was being agile, mentally flexible, and I knew that I was going to be sort of on the cusp when driving the 40 minutes back to the hotel at the time that it was whatever, and it is the way it is. That's the way you have to deal with life. Just to take it as it comes and just have fun, regardless of what your circumstances are, because, as you said, circumstances don't matter. They don't. It's how you feel that matters. It's what you're thinking. It's where you're focused that matters. Do you see? And we had a great dinner that evening too. So I'm quite happy with this week. And I've been lucky. I actually have seen a full solar eclipse in my life somewhere in the world. I can't remember where it was, but I have seen one, and it is pretty. It's pretty stellar. So if that was my one. 21 years from now, who knows? Be somewhere.
But Michael, it's a moment in time, and yes, and what I found so fascinating up until the point of the eclipse, and you saw anybody who is in social media saw the fear that was being perpetrated around it, and some of the other things that were. I just shook my head. Like, I looked at the images, and they were fiery images and like grimaces on people's faces, and this tactic to get people to tune into and I'm sure a lot of people did, but I wasn't really interested in jumping on that. I was looking for the beauty in every moment, and I was looking for whatever I could find as far as the astronomy and some of the other things, tuning into just the positivity, and as Pam Gregory puts it, the love revolution. I thought, what an amazing time. Unity. People are coming together for a common occurrence. I think there were so many people, whether they tuned in on television or whatever, and they were excited. They were passionate about something. It wasn't really, for a lot of people, it wasn't a fear-based experience. It was an exciting experience. And so, like you said, wherever you saw it, whatever you saw it, it was that choice. And I think in any day there are moments that we have that we witness, and you smile and you go, wow, that was really an incredible day. I can't believe everything aligned up just the way it was supposed to.
Yeah. Well, that is true. It lines up the way it's supposed to anyway, eclipse or not. And we have a much more balanced emotional state and a higher frequency balanced emotional state when you just let things roll, and just go along with them. find the joy in whatever it is, because it's there for you to find joy in it, as the teachers say. Whatever's in your field of vision, whatever you're being exposed to, is there for a reason. Nothing is pointless. Zero is pointless. We know this now. We have the ability, the heightened sense of awareness as to this now. And it was interesting today. Bashar had said this, and I think the teachers had said it as well. These messages would not be this how to live life would not be coming to us the way it's coming to us if we weren't ready for it. If we weren't ready to hear how to live a happier, healthier, more vibrant, passionate, and exciting and fun life, we wouldn't be exposed to it. However, we do live in a world where negativity reigns because people have allowed negativity to be so pervasive. People are more into fear and avoidance than love and joy and happiness and embracing the unknown. Embracing the unknown is a scary thing for a lot of people. They want the certainty of something, and there is no certainty. Even when you think there is no certainty. You have an idea, that idea doesn't come to fruition, and what happens? You turn negative. You get upset about it. You you get anxious, you get fearful, you get become unhappy because it didn't happen exactly the way that you thought it should happen, when actually that might have been a stepping stone to something even greater. And that's the way I choose to kind of see things, because it's a job. You have to be willing to embrace that frame of mind when something happens that totally throws you for a loop. There is no unfortunate, there's no misfortunate, there's no adversity, there's none of those things unless you say that's what they are.
Right.
Other than that, they're just things that I heard. They're just events. Events are just events until you think you'd say otherwise. That's it.
Yeah.
And
that is beauty. No, go ahead. Finish what you're saying. I apologize. Go ahead.
I'm finished.
But I was going to say, Michael, you had in the circumstances video you sent me, the audio. There was the woman that Bashar was speaking to was talking about the car that she had and how she was unhappy with it. And she was doing all these different things, and then she mentions that he asked her if she had gone to the dealership and test drove it, and she said, well, no, you have to be qualified and have a credit check, and I can't do that. And then she said, but I did receive a card in the mail that said that she was pre-qualified. And he said, well, the universe gave it to you. And he said, but you're only looking at in the terms that you can see. What if you said, I have this organization and it would be really great if you donated a car to us? I thought, my goodness, what a fresh perspective. That he pointed out that things sometimes when we get out of our own way in the way that we think things should happen, that miracles can unfold. And he saw just that card that she got in the mail as a positive sign. But sometimes we can't see that for ourselves. And I really appreciate that. And then, what pops into my mind, Michael, because you brought up the haystacks. I mean, think about that. You can't find a needle in a haystack. I don't believe there was an accident that you used those Monet painted so many different things besides the water lilies. And you thought about the haystacks, and here we're talking about finding that needle in the haystack. And what is it that it's knowing that you can do that. It's really, truly knowing that you can do that. I'll never forget my partner had this Civil War ring, and part of it broke off when we were doing some gardening and landscaping work, and it was his favorite ring. And he said, well, we'll never find it. And I was like, oh, no, we'll find it. We know exactly where we were in the garden. Now, we've turned over lots of soil, put lots of mulch down. The next day I went out and I walked right up to where that piece of silver was, and he like, look, I found part of your ring. I went out there with the intention that I was going to find it. because I knew that was something that was important to him, and he was able to get it resoldered and wore it and enjoyed it. But I think it's just that energy of certainty, knowing that no matter what, if you're J.R.R. Tolkien and you want to create this fantasy world and you have C.S. Lewis encouraging you, or I have Michael J. Ross encouraging me, that I can do that. I can do whatever it is that I envision that I want to do. Whether I tap into my higher self or, as Bashar says, your passion, doing what it is that I came to do and bring myself into alignment with that and really tell myself, I can do this. Keep going. I got it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. I agree 110%. I mean, this is, we can, when we embrace the fact that we are the ones who decide everything in our lives, including not just making decisions day to day about where we're going to eat, what I'm going to eat for dinner, and when I'm going to get up, that kind of thing, what time I'm going to arrive at work, and how I'm going to get there. These are the little 3D things that we deal with, but we have so much more control over our reality, and that control fascinates me. It's fascinated me for years, and I forgot where I heard it, but I think that I think it might have been Bashar. But words matter because words become physical matter. I've been fascinated for decades about how what we think and say about ourselves and our experience of life happens to play out in the physical. I can, if someone's upset, or complaining, I'm just listening to what they're saying, and 9 times out of 9 times, 100% of the time, 1,000% of the time, 10,000% of the time, it is their language that is telegraphing everything that's happening to them. Their language is validating the reality that they're experiencing. And when you change the language, the way you think about and then express yourself, your engagement with reality, in your life, your reality does change. And calling something hard, calling something difficult, whatever is that's your definition, and that's exactly the way you're going to experience whatever it is. I remember that every single time something happens, that throws me for a loop for a moment. I'm going unexpected. Let's call it that way. Because life is full of the unexpected, and we have an opportunity to embrace it. Just see it as just something. Just, hey, that thing, how interesting, right? We talked about that a few shows ago. Oh, that's really interesting. It's just something. But when we start labeling things all negative, it definitely takes us to a different place. It takes us way beyond where we live that experience of what we think and say. We live that experience, and we can change that experience. And the beauty of it is that it is in doing it. It's fascinating. You can go through your entire day as a happy camper if you just remember that you're controlling the way that you engage with your experience of life over and over.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
That happens. Again, it is. I'm hearing this more now, this year and last year, than in the last 4 decades. Everywhere I turn, there are more messages like that from people, from Carol and the teachers to Bashar to everybody else that's out there that's talking right now, that's channeling, that's entities, and I think Sarah is it Sarah Loudon?
Landon, yeah.
Sarah Landon, and others who are some of the people who've been around for a while. Interestingly enough, people are finally starting to get it, finally interested in that. Maybe because they've become so disinterested in the way their life has been for how many years that's been, that they're looking for something different, looking for a way to live differently than they're living, to experience life in a different way. And you can do just that. I am always cognizant of the fact that I'm the one who's dictating how I feel in any given moment. Always, always. And I'm always looking at the way I'm perceiving things that, that happen. And one of the biggest issues that we have today is people being anxious about the future, being fearful, being worried, frustrated about what tomorrow will bring, what the day at work will bring. And obviously you and I know that's not a way to live, because
right.
none of that fosters happiness and joy and passion. And it just pretty much destroys passion if there was any there to begin with, and excitement isn't there either. People who, like Edison, who spent years of his life inventing and creating and had a lab with a bunch of people in there working on it. I mean, how fun must it have been for him to get up in the morning and go discover? Same thing with Tesla. Having so many ideas. Even Prince, having more ideas about music than he could possibly put down on paper, and working diligently, in many cases, on 1 or 2 hours sleep because he was so excited by what he was doing and what he was creating that he passed away with 350 totally completed songs in his vault.
Wow, I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
350
wow.
totally. Yeah, he was a big proponent of sovereignty when it came to his life and his music and his proprietary his property, intellectual property. He had been dissed by a radio well, obviously he lost the use of his name when he broke his contract with one of the big record companies, and so he had to basically be called the Symbol. He came up with a symbol, and that was what he called himself, the Symbol, instead of because he couldn't use the name Prince. And people go like, well, why is it now a symbol? Yeah, because he signed a contract and he didn't like the way where it went, and he says, how can I maintain, I can sit around and complain about this and sue and all that, take myself to a lower level where the creativity kind of disappears, because that's what happens when you resonate at lower levels. You're not creative. You're not creative because you're not at a high enough frequency to allow that creation to occur. And so he said, no, that's it. I'll just leave this and take my lumps, and I will go keep creating, and I'll find a new way to come out with albums. I'll produce my own and keep going. He kept rolling and passed away, one of the most brilliant, most prolific songwriters in history. Very, very amazing. You just look at somebody like that, and I think, believe it or not, I think it was Carol, the teachers. Carol is able to channel Prince. My issue is,
I do believe that. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to ask him. I have no idea what to ask him.
You will. I know, to be able to have that conversation. Oh,
really?
I know.
What am I going to ask you? Because we do, as I said, we do lose our personality. Our personality goes away. That's the thing that we shed when we pass. And that we are back to our, with our soul self, right? Our higher self. We reconnect with our major aspect of our soul, the balance of our soul. The soul is left behind, and who we really are. All the many, many lives we've had. It's all fascinating to think about.
But what you're saying, Michael, and it's so funny because it goes back to Bashar saying, you had to be a little bit crazy. I mean, at the time when Prince came out, he was very different. He was a very different artist. He dressed differently. He danced amazingly. He had all of these beautiful women. Men wearing purple. I mean, come on, really? I mean, was that acceptable? I mean, a lot of the things that he did were, and his music was so incredible. It set a new genre, I think, in music. And I'm sure every morning when he got up just like we did. You open your eyes, it's a new day. He brushed his teeth. He did whatever he was doing. But then that passion, that need to create. And as you said, even when somebody was trying to take that away from him because of a contract, he didn't let that cloud loom over him. He's like, okay, you know what? I'll figure out another way. He didn't let that somewhat legal storm take him under. He found a different way. And I think that any of us can do that. And what a great metaphor. Even though we had the eclipse, he had this darkness, the sun came out. Yeah. As it does in every day, in every life. The sun comes up, and we have a new opportunity to create what it is that we want and really follow what our life's passion is. And I think that's a really important theme, as you said, to be able to write that number of songs. I mean, he was living his passion. It had to come out.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
So true. So true. I find that I know people who are songwriters. We know Eric Alexandrakis, obviously, who's
off the charts creative. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was saying, I have more projects than I can to finish than I have time at this particular point. I mean, the creativity, when you're in that groove, it just doesn't stop. And what you have to do is what Carol was talking about is just basically not create the angst between which project to work on. Yeah, it's achieving this balance between this is what I'm going to do today, put your heart and soul and your passion, your excitement into that thing, and when it's over, you go on to the next thing. And what tends to happen for a lot of people who are very creative and have a lot of different projects at once, and I know it happens, I find it happening to me as well every once in a while until I recognize it, is that you're wondering, okay, which way do you go? What do I do? Which thing should I work on first? Because all these things, I have these ideas written down, notes and things for all these things. You just have to sit down and start doing one thing, mm-hmm. right? And that's pretty much the extent of it, one thing. And once you do that, you just move on to the next thing when you've reached a certain point with that one. And sometimes it might be the entire day. I know I'll spend an entire day working on something or several hours in an evening. I'm thinking, I got 3 ideas, but let's just work on this one. Let's just do this. Otherwise, nothing will get done because you'll sit there and overthink everything to the point where there's nothing gets done. There's no activity. And I admire those people who sit down and they just, plow out things like crazy, one creative thing after another and get it totally complete and move on to the next one. I want to be that. I love that. I want to be that person.
Well, you know what, though? You're creating and doing different things in different ways and every day. And what you share with me and what you share with the world is very important. And, I'm grateful that you're my C.S. Lewis and and that I'm allowed to be a little bit crazy and we can have the wonderful conversations that we do. It's just, and I'm very grateful for everybody that tunes into us here at Connect to Love. It really fills my heart and my soul. And I know Michael enjoys sharing the things that you guys get. I think our audience kind of gets a peek into our little world of different thought and what we see as magical in life. And it's an honor to be able to do this with you, Michael.
Thank you. And the honor's mine as well. I mean, to our audience out there, all I can say is if you're kind of befuddled by some of the things that we said today, where do you start? You start with getting yourself, examining your life, looking at your perceptions, and just saying, okay, am I having fun? That's a great way to start. Am I having fun? What would be fun in this moment? What would be exciting to me in this moment to do that I could throw my passion and my energy into? Start there. Keep building on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. I know, and before we know it, our hour disappears, and here we are.
It's gone.
And that's a great way to sum it up, Michael. I mean, truly, I would encourage everybody, pursue your passion and your dreams, and be a little bit crazy, and never allow the circumstances of where you're at the moment to define who you are, because it can change in the moment at the drop of a hat.
And you can control that, which is the wonderful thing about it. So keep it going, keep it flowing. Life is meant to be fun. Fun. Absolutely.
And things can turn out better than you even expected, even that you could even imagine. I mean, that's what I just hold to my heart. And so I want to thank you. And anything else you want to say before we close for the week?
Expect the best. Expect the wonderful.
Great way.
Expect greatness. Expect it all the fun, all the joy. It'll happen.
That's absolutely awesome. Thank you. And until next time.